Hi, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to Learn Inspire Transcend, aka LIT. My guest today is an award winning, multifaceted artist who is creating and living in his authenticity. I'm personally inspired by his growth in the arts as he continues to break beyond boundaries in this industry. Welcome, Malachi Rivers.
Thank you. Hey.
Yay! Welcome. Thank you for taking some time today to chat with me. I know you have so much going on. I've been looking at been doing a lot of shows and like chats, other chats that you're doing with people.
Mhm.
And I'm like, man, what do I ask him that he hasn't said already on all of these other platforms? I'm like, introduce yourself, Malachi.
I am Malachi Rivers. I am an actor, artist, producer, writer, creator. Um, I have just been involved in the arts since the time I can remember. I'm just a complete artist in a sense of it makes my heart beat. It, it runs through my blood. So I don't know what else to do if I don't have the art. So that in
Right.
a nutshell, I am a complete artist. And yeah, so I'm originally from Maryland, the DC area, but I was in New York for a long time, and Harlem stand up, uh, and
Hey.
and now I'm in Los Angeles. I've been in LA for the last 7 years, and out here just you know figuring out my way in the Hollywood world. From Harlem to Hollywood,
I
and
hear you.
yeah, I've been fortunate enough to make a lot of great moves and strides. And just came out here with my hustle and bustle, my New York hustle and bustle,
Yes. If you
and
can survive in New York, you can
yeah,
go anywhere with that. Okay.
I'm out here doing it. So I'm grateful. Yeah,
Yes.
so that's where I am. And I've worked on a lot of projects since I've been out here, but we were talking about moments, and moments is my project that I'm so excited about. And it's 9 episodes. Um,
Right.
each episode is dealing with mental health. And
Mm-hmm.
so it starts off with a therapy group, and it's about the moment that led each of these characters to therapy. So each
Right.
episode focuses on a different character, and as you've seen a few of the episodes, which has
Mm-hmm.
so well at the film festivals. We've entered a lot of film festivals and actually won a lot of film festivals, which I've been fortunate enough to have done. So I'm grateful for that. Um, and yeah, and so I started the show because I realized that I mean it was a combination of things. Just one being an artist and started writing it during the pandemic, and needing an outlet and needing something to do. And a friend of mine, Sufi, we were actually doing a show called The Log Lounge,
Right.
which you
The
were on.
Lava Lounge. Yes, I was on there. That was fun.
We did it during the pandemic, and it was an Instagram show that we did, where we had actors and artists come on and do monologues, and we interviewed them and things like that. Sort of, kind of what we're doing
Right.
now. And a lot of actors actually didn't have monologues, so they were like, "Oh, well, write something, or whatever." And so I started writing monologues, and through that process, I was like, "Man, I feel like these are some really, really good monologues." And I wanted to kind of create something with that. And I was like, "Oh, we should just do a show where we have the people lined up doing these monologues." And then it went from that to a full on pledge show. Like, I mean, it just kept on getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then I was like, well, how am I going to tie these things in? And I was like, therapy group, and so all these things just started tying into each other. And so that's the true beginning of it. Um,
Right.
and through that process, talking to friends, and one of my friend Erica, she used to tell me uh, all these crazy stories. She was a comedian. She ended up passing away.
Mhm.
But she used to tell me all these crazy stories. And in one story she told me, she was actually telling me that her friend was in an abusive relationship with this guy who was in a
Oh.
wheelchair. And I was like, huh? See, he was like, and I was like,
Yeah. How'd that work out?
I was like,
Yeah.
that's kind of crazy. And so, and my mind started running. I was like, man, I said, I would love to see
Mhm.
a story. I said, that would be a great story for somebody to see because nobody would imagine that, right? But
Right.
it's also, and I started thinking about it, and I was like, started thinking about how could this happen? And then I was like, oh, well, he probably is in here. He probably has her mind.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Right.
so that was kind of like the story that kind of made me like take the monologues and
And
want to tell stories about like all these other stories that people probably really don't talk about. You know what I mean? Especially in the communities of color, and we have a lot of
mm,
stuff that we just don't talk about, right? And so I kind of wanted to merge the two, and that's how moments came about. It was just being able to tell stories that people don't talk about.
mhm.
But also give the characters these perspectives, and have the viewer see their inner thoughts of what they're really feeling, and what you see that they go into these monologues. So it starts off with the therapy group.
Mhm.
Asks them a question, and they either have the flashback or they have the monologue right away. Sometimes I flip it and do it different ways. But
Right.
it's really just about them analyzing their life and their world and stuff that like people don't talk about all the time. So yeah, and I just think therapy is so important. And I realize most of the stuff that I'm writing now, and even the stuff after moments, it all has
Mhm.
like mental health and stuff like that. So I think that's kind of like my lane as far as the arts and mental health. So yeah,
Yes. I love how that process came about.
it was a long
You
it was a
know?
long like, explanation, but I
Right.
I had to make sure that I was connecting the dots with that.
Yeah, but that's just the beauty of creativity. Like as you're going through life, as you're hearing stories from people, like that's how our art is usually created, right? As we're living our lives and saying, that would make a good show, that would make a good scene. There's a lot of times I find myself in situations where I'm like, yo, that's a scene. Let me write that down.
That's a
But I
whole
love
TV
it.
show. You know what I mean? That's
Yes.
literally like a whole TV show or a movie or whatever, where it's just taking those scenes and connecting the dots. You know what I mean?
Right. So how do you balance telling the stories that reflect struggle and still offering hope?
That's a good question. And it's one of those things where I'm not forcing my storytelling or writing.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
sometimes it's a thing, especially with writers, where they tell writers to, in order to be a writer, you got to write every day. You got to do this. You got to sit down and until you certain hours, and this is a true writer. And I'm like, I don't write.
Right.
Like I didn't. I'm not an artist like that. I have to feel
Mhm.
something.
Yes.
My artistry for me is aligned to a spiritual connection and then a higher being. So
Hmm.
everything kind of like it's an alignment with that. So
Yes.
if it ain't happening, it ain't happening. I'm not forcing it. And I say
Right.
based off of because I'm not trying to um, offer hope or anything when I write.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of
Yeah.
just allow it to be what it is.
Right.
I'm a very hopeful person. I think that naturally might come through or whatever. Because I know
Right.
sometimes you look at stuff and it's like, okay, here's trauma porn. You know what I mean? Like it is like whatever. It's just like, all right, everybody, oh,
True.
woe is me, and oh, I'm so downright trying to, whatever. Uh,
Right. Right. It's
and
not always a happy ending,
right,
you know.
right. I think for me it was just about truth telling and just trying to be in a
Hmm.
space of honoring whoever the character that I'm writing and trying to
Right.
find some type of truth in it. And I think
Hmm.
in that process, it'll allow itself to just kind of just unfold without worrying about if they're a positive ending or if they're like a hopeful ending or anything
Right.
like that. Being true to the character and where you stand.
Yeah.
Um, but to that point, moments is going to be it's a roller coaster. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like because it's a short form series, and so we catch each character uh, at the breaking point, the moment that led them to therapy. You know what I mean? So when we catch them, it's like the explosion, right? And
Hmm.
so and I just did that because it's a short form series, and I just wanted to show the impact of what's happening right now before they got to the therapy group.
Right.
But in my mind, um, I would like to see a full realized series where it's like an hour long episodic, um,
Yes.
you actually get to see these characters explore like what happened. They had whole lives before they actually even went into therapy. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Show
Mhm.
that you'll see at the end of the series that it has a sci-fi element to it as well.
Oh.
And so these characters are actually kind of in alignment with each other and connected and don't know. But it's kind of like, in other seasons, I would have it where they're actually revisiting their past and the choices that they made, you know what I mean? And
Oh, I
having to,
love that.
right. So it's stuff that I couldn't show in such a short form series, right? But
Right.
I think what we did has been amazing and excellent. But yeah, season after season, I would kind of explore um, just how trauma has unfolded and how we, the slightest little thing, something that might be brushed up, somebody else might brush off their shoulder, can literally affect somebody else's life for the rest of their life. You know what I mean? And people
Detrimentally, yep.
ways. And so I kind of want to explore that and get into
Mhm.
the nitty gritty of all that in a full on realized episodic show. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I love that. Where can people see Moments? Do you have
Uh,
it like coming out anywhere that people can?
so yeah, I'm figuring all that out now.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I mean, hey, listen, if somebody from a
This
network,
somebody needs to
I'm
pick it
like,
up, right? Is that
I'll
what
let
we're
you
doing?
know. You know what I'm
We
saying?
gotta pick this up, okay? Because this is
um,
amazing work.
yeah, we haven't released it yet. I'm wrapping up everything now. With
Hmm.
sound and color and gonna have all 9 episodes done. So I'm not exactly sure what format
Hmm.
I'm gonna release it on. I mean,
Okay.
there's several formats, so I'm just trying to figure it out now, which will be the best way because I definitely want it to get the maximum exposure, the maximum
Yes.
exposure, as opposed to just putting it out there. Because there's a lot of great shows that are out there, whether it's
Hmm.
on YouTube or some other streaming platform that people don't know about because it hasn't
Not
gotten
getting out.
right. And then you got some stuff that's just not so good that blows up, and because it's the right push. So I'm just trying to find that platform that will allow
Yeah.
most to shine and really get the maximum exposure.
I'm sure when the time is right, it's going to come out right on time for you,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
I'm just like impatient because I want to see all of them. I'm
No,
really
I mean
patient. You left
it's,
us hanging. I was like, wait, we need more. Keep it going.
yeah, no, it's definitely coming out. I mean, it's coming out soon, but it's just more trying to figure out like, hey, if I'm going to release it on YouTube and just release all the episodes, or am I going to do a week to week, or you know what I mean? So I'm just trying to
Yeah.
figure all that out now.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. I know you have a number one show right now on Tubi
Yeah.
that
Oh,
you're
lips.
with
Lips.
Nikki Owens. Shout out to Nikki.
It's a web series that I did years ago,
Uh,
and I always laugh because I'm just like, people love that show. Like I mean, it's just straight up like guerrilla style. Shout out to my girl
yes.
Leisha, our girl who's director. I mean, it's just it was just one of those shows that we were shot at. It was real round away and like
Hmm.
but that show has wings. I mean, it's still like to this day, people just love it. And yeah, I mean, I'm grateful for it because I'm like, hey, listen, um, I, I I was at one point I was calling myself the web series king because I've done like so many web series
Right,
like
you did Roz, right? You was doing Roz and stuff.
Oz,
Yeah.
Roz, Rhonda
Roz,
Mitchell,
Roz.
Lips.
Hmm.
I mean,
Oh my gosh.
yeah. So
It
it's
was
just
the web series season.
yeah, and so listen, the web series have kept me um, going as an artist. You know what I mean? It allowed me to showcase my talent, and so
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for web series. So yeah,
I love that step by step. And you
Mhm.
also are doing spoken word.
Yeah, yeah. Spoken
You
word poetry is I've been doing that since I can remember as well. Like it's just
right.
always been a thing that's been ingrained in me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's I finally was just like, okay. So I did projects years ago with a jazz artist named Marcus Strickland, Grammy nominated jazz artist named Marcus Strickland.
Mm.
And guy Keon Harold on there who was nominated this year for Alternative Jazz Album for the Grammys. And we all were like touring with each other, and we did an album together called Open Real Deck. And I was the spoken word voice on that album. And we toured over Europe and States and things like that. And this is years ago. And
Beautiful.
I picked up music and started rapping as well and doing things. But uh, I got a little inspired within the last. This is the third year, I think. Yeah, the third year that the Grammys started the category for spoken word poetry. Before
Mm.
they just had spoken word, which included like audiobooks and people just reading books and things like that or whatever, right? But
Oh, okay.
the category now is spoken word poetry category. And guy named Jay Ivy, who I collabed with before years ago, he won 2 years in a row. I know he was a big catalyst for pushing that category and trying to get it into the Grammys. But he won like 2 years back to back, and then a couple people who I know who were nominated. I'm like, I've done stuff with them years ago, and it was just I was just kind of like, man. And this is something that I always said. I was like, I wish they had a spoken word poetry category years ago. When I was really heavy into it. And then I
Right.
looked up and I was like, now that they have it, I was just like, and I wasn't forcing anything. I really was just writing anyway. And I
Right.
was like, and I just felt inspired. And I was just like, oh, I actually have something to say now. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Not forced. It's just, and once I did it, the words just start coming out of me. The writing start coming out of me. And
I love
excited for you guys to hear it because it's definitely, it's hip hop based with some soul. So,
Mm.
it's,
It's
it's
powerful.
yeah, and it's not, even for me who have roots in spoken word poetry as a spoken word poet, spoken word
Mhm.
poetry can end up being boring if you listen to a whole album with it. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
ain't getting that with this. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like I'm I'm making sure it's lined up where you just like feeling good, like you're listening to a hip hop record because I love hip hop as well. So that's part of my roots
Yeah.
too. But yeah, it's just spoken words. Just replace the
Something
rapping.
you can vibe to. Just
Yeah, yeah.
and that song that you showed me, man.
So
I was
Bob,
like,
I
this
didn't know
is
you was a house head like me. So
oh yeah. I love it. I
yeah.
was vibing too. I was folding my clothes. I was like, oh
Yeah,
shit.
yeah, definitely. Did I say you both versions?
No, just one.
Okay, okay, because I think I'll look to see which one I sent you because there's another version that's a little different, but it's dope too.
It's fire. I always love those songs where it's like the background is like spoken word.
DJ Stormer Norman, he started Sunday Sermon in New York, and
Hmm.
that's my people's, and he heard that poem that Ghetto Rhapsody that I did, and
Yeah.
he was like, can you record that for me? And so I recorded it for him and sent it to him, and here we are now with it, and
Magic.
yeah, he got a team
Magic. I
together.
love it.
He brought some musicians in and some people, and they, congos and everything. I mean, they killed it. So
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited for that. What are you working on right now?
the industry has been a little interesting, but uh,
Mhm.
auditioning has been picking up for me. I've been grateful for that. I've been you know,
Awesome.
happy about
Awesome.
that. So I'm not complaining. Um,
Yeah.
and I actually wrote a short film with Carolyn Pierre Outlaw.
Who
So
that? No, that's my girl.
shout out to Carolyn Pierre Outlaw,
Shout out to Carolyn.
creator Rhonda
I
Mitchell
love
MD, who I was actor in. But yeah, we wrote a short film called Tie that I'm excited about, and I actually want to start filming that pretty soon. So it's about a guy who has a son, he and his wife, and he receives a package from prison, his father's leftovers, basically his father's belongings, because his father
Mm.
died in prison. And his father wasn't in his life since the time he was little. He got arrested and taken away and stuff like that. And this guy, the character, he blue collar guy, but he never learned how to tie a tie. And so
Mm.
he's forced with trying to teach his son how to tie a tie to get ready for the prom. And you'll see in the short film, it's really emotional because he's frustrated because he doesn't want to admit that he doesn't know how to tie a tie, and he's trying to
Mm.
figure it out. But it's really about the connection of uh, it might seem something very simple for people, but that's such a bonding moment from a father and son. Um,
Yes.
like learning how to tie a tie and like going into manhood and things like that that a lot of people don't
Hmm.
talk about. And
Right.
um, and he's frustrated because he never learned that from his father, and he's now his father's gone, and so he's trying to teach his son, and he's battling with it, and so he goes through that whole process. Um,
Mm.
and
Wow.
and so yeah, and it's an emotional journey. And at one point, he actually ends up falling asleep, and then he wakes up in this in this space, and his father is sitting beside him, and they had this whole man to man explosion conversation about like he wasn't there for me, blah blah blah. And his father was like, I was young, and so it's really just talking about
Oh my gosh. You guys, this is amazing.
yeah.
I
So
love that synopsis. It's beautiful.
yeah, so I'm excited about that as well, and writing other things, and just
Yeah.
figuring it out. I mean, as artists, you got to create. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and figure it out. You know what I mean? So that's all I'm doing. It's just constantly trying to be in the space of creating because it's not always easy. Life be life, and then you just gotta like, oh, I don't want to whatever. But I know that's the thing that keeps me. I've been saying this for the last like week and some change. Go to the place where you're excited at, and that's where
Right.
you'll you know what I mean. Like that's where you'll thrive. Whatever that thing is that makes you excited, follow that, go to that. You know what I mean? Money comes and
Mhm.
goes, things happen and stuff like that. So I understand people got to survive. You got to do what you got to do, but that's your life force right there. The thing that makes you excited. Go to that. Keep on going to that.
Absolutely. Those are some wise words from Malachi right there, y'all.
Well, my name means messenger. So there you go. I'm dropping the
There
message.
it is. There it is. I was thinking you have such a strong voice, and like your persona has always reminded me of James Earl Jones. If that makes sense, like your presence,
Anybody
your
that knows
your
me,
strong voice, that's who
yep.
it reminds me
Anybody that knows me knows that like that was one of my aces, boom coons, as far as just like I mean, it's so many things were connected with James Earl Jones that it's just
of.
like
Uh-huh.
um, when I
Oh
was
wow.
because I went to a performing arts school, and when I was uh, young and teachers were training and coaching and things like that or whatever, and one of the teachers said to me, she's like, oh, you're gonna be like a young James Earl Jones, and I really didn't even know necessarily who he was like to that level.
Mhm.
But I was curious, and so I started like looking at a lot of his stuff and just like and just really, really like studying him and kind of just being like, and that's honestly to this day, that's somebody who I would still love to be like his presence, his stage presence, his command
Yes.
on stage and stuff like that. So even today, you can go on YouTube and look at his portrayal in Fences, and I mean
Mm.
it's a master class, like of just like the presence that man had on stage, and
Hmm.
where he showed up on camera and film, it was just that's who I wanted to be, and still I'm like, damn, I would love to have a career like his. You know what I mean?
Oh
From
yeah.
overs to whatever. And I remember, I don't know if you remember the Verizon commercials he used to do,
Yes.
and so I literally was like, man, I was just like, before he dies, and this I swear to God, I used to say this, like before he dies, I need to be in these Verizon commercials with him. I need to be like the next generation of Verizon. He needs to pass the torch to me. And
Oh yeah.
it was like literally, I used to say that all the time. But at the same time, like but yeah, yeah. So
Such
that's
an icon.
honor, yeah, to even hear that you say that's who I
Oh
want.
yeah. I had no idea you had that
Mm-hmm.
connection as far as him being a role model in that
Yeah,
way. That's beautiful. Is there a question that no one has asked you yet in all of these interviews you've been on that you wish someone would ask you?
I know. I did
Something
see
you
that.
want to ask you?
Where can I cut the check? No, I need somebody to say that to me. You know what I'm saying? Like you just you've been
Yeah. That's
out
very
here.
important.
I see you out here hustling. I see you out here grinding. You know what I'm saying? Let me write you a check for a couple million, so just so you could go ahead and pursue what you need to do. You know what I'm
That's it. I
saying?
love.
Where could I cut the check? I need somebody to ask me
Yeah, yeah. We have some people out there that could cut some checks. Let's go. If you could leave a message for your future self in 10 years, 10 years from now, what would it be?
To my future self.
Yeah.
I want not necessarily telling myself anything. I would want to be able just to laugh
Hmm.
and literally just go like, remember when you were struggling with this? Remember you were like, you know what I mean? I want to be able to like laugh at those stories. You know what I mean?
Right.
And not
Right.
like have my shoulders raised because I'm stressed the hell out or something or whatever. But I would just love to be able to like look back and just laugh at the things that I thought.
With an end.
Yeah,
It was the
yeah,
biggest obstacle. I won't ever overcome this. Because I could look back at things and be like, wow, I really thought that was the end.
right.
Like I really thought,
It wasn't even that deep. It's to the point where like you're now like, what was I tripping on? Like, you know what I'm
yeah.
saying? This is like, have you ever like revisited like old Facebook posts or stuff like that?
Oh
Uh,
my gosh, yes. When they tell you, oh, this is from last, 10 years ago, I'm like, oh, okay.
I literally sit there and I was looking at some of the stuff and I was like, what were you going through? I was just like, it was kind of like, it's like, relax. It's gonna be okay. You know what I mean? Um,
Right,
it's funny because I was
right.
definitely way more I put a lot of things out there via social media years
Mm,
ago. Not necessarily bad things, but just more of just like I was definitely like on my emo stuff where I would
yeah,
just all this like, oh yeah, and I feel this way and blah 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 and whatever, right?
right.
Um, and yeah, you know, you're not getting that out of me in social media at this point. Like, you know what I mean? I'm
Not anymore. Right.
very aware of energy for me.
Yes.
I'm very you'll get it for being in real life in person or whatever, but
Hmm.
yeah, it ain't that serious for me to like, you know,
Tell everybody.
to get to social
No.
media.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of us have reached that point where it's like,
And it's just giving too much power to something that has nothing to really like do with your everyday existence. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And that's how I feel. Like so, yeah. It's just I even think about the growth of like years ago of just you know, and I'm not knocking anybody who does this or whatever, right?
Right. No, y'all
But
can
it's
do what
just,
you want.
just do your thing or whatever. But I just think about years ago when it was just like every other picture was like a selfie, and it was like, oh look,
Right.
look, you know what I mean? It just is like,
Your food, your plate of food.
yeah, it's like,
I don't
like,
know.
yeah,
I
here, and it's like, like
everything.
I look back now and I just kind of laugh or whatever. So I'm like, if it ain't about my career or me being like, hey, look at me, like as far as just like what I'm doing career wise, you,
Right.
you probably ain't
Yeah.
seen the post out of
It's so true. It's true. It's true. And it's scary too with like all the data collection. And I mean, we don't need to put any more out there that people need to know.
yeah.
But yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I
But
definitely
yeah,
just want to my future self. I definitely would just want to be, having some good laughs of like the things
yes.
I thought was going to take me out, and I'm just like, it wasn't even that serious, So
Stressing for nothing. That's what we do. We stress.
yeah, but
But
hopefully, I believe that I'll be laughing in my nice house, my 4-car garage, with 5 bedrooms or something. Put the energy out there. Speak what you wanted
that's
to
it.
exist.
I believe that. I believe that wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to see where you're headed. It's going to
Yeah.
be a beautiful journey. I love it. I
Yeah.
love
Thank
it.
you. Thank you, sis. Yeah. Fun.
So, but thanks again. And, everyone just check out Malachi. You have a website, right?
So my website is Harvard, like the school, Harvard
Mm-hmm.
Arts Productions.com.
Okay.
Uh,
HarvardArtsProduction.com.
mhm. And
I'll
then,
make sure.
yeah, and then you can find me on all platforms under Malachi Rivers. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So then we can stay tuned and we can all see those episodes of Moments because I'm
Yeah.
excited. I like it. All right, Malachi. Love and peace and blessings always,
All right,
okay?
babe. All right.
Later.